No, it's all right. I'll do that one. This one's fine. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming along to this presentation by Waterware and Messana Hydronic Technologies. My name is Steve Gledhill. I'm the Territory Manager for the Wellington or Lower North Island region. I've recently started with Waterware, only about 4 weeks now. Most of you might know me from Central Heating New Zealand, which I did about 10 years there. So yes, I'm a ship jumper. So today is about some new technology and some new innovations in the heating, cooling, hot water and ventilation sector. And you'll be hearing from two presenters here. Darren Yeasley is our Technical Director, and Alessandro Anufo is from Messana Technologies in the United States, and he's going to be talking about some pretty special stuff that we've been working on. So I have to do a couple of housekeeping things here. Toilets, for anyone who doesn't know, is straight across the hall, so real easy. And I just have a little bit here I have to read out on the emergency procedures. So in the event of an alarm activation, please exit the building via the nearest emergency exit stairwell down to level 1 foyer and make your way towards the assembly area following the directions of venue staff. Once you've exited the building, proceed past the gates and assemble at the fire assembly point, which is on the Franweld walkway, which is on the opposite side of the entry gates. So out past the inner parking lot and into the next side. In the event of an earthquake, drop to the ground, get under cover, hold on until the shaking is stopped. Do not evacuate the building unless instructed to do so, and follow directions provided by the venue staff and the PA announcements. You may be asked to evacuate to the field. So that's pretty much everything on there. Of latecomers there, but anyway, I hope you enjoy the presentation. It'll be for about 90 minutes, and then we've got drinks and food afterwards if you'd like to stick around. But without further ado, I'll introduce Darren Yeasley. Thank you.
Hello, thanks Steve. We're very happy to have Steve on board with us, so please give him a warm welcome if you're an existing Waterware customer, and for new customers, welcome to Waterware. So what we're going to talk about today is I'll do a brief overview of introduction on Waterware and the products that we do. One of the challenges we have as a company is we've got a very broad product offering. So we have a very, very wide range of products, and that creates some challenges, but it also creates some opportunities for us. It means that we can put systems together where if you're just focusing on very narrow products, that makes it very hard to provide solutions and systems. So the general theme which we're going to be talking about is new technology and new opportunities. So there's a couple of drivers which are happening in the market which is really going to steer what's going to happen in our industry over the next 5 to 10 years. And there's two main things which are really going to be driving that. One is climate. As climate changes, if you're a heating company and the world's getting warmer, eventually that's going to start reducing the need for heating buildings. And the second driver is the new changes coming in H1. So the building code is changing, buildings are becoming tighter sealed and they're becoming better insulated. As that happens, the key drivers for comfort is going to be more and more on ventilating and cooling than it's going to be on heating. We've always seen ourselves as a radiant heating company, and with these two things in mind, that's really what's been motivating us to try and innovate our way in the market, and really looking forward in this timeline for the next 5 to 10 years. That's really what's driving us down this path. Okay, so in terms of the broad product portfolio that we've got, there's really 3 sides to our company. We have a bathroomware side. We're a family company, so my sister, my brother-in-law, 3 cousins, and then we've got an extended family of the Waterware team. There's 35 of us in total, or 37 now. And my sister, she looks after the bathroomware side of the company. She's got a very good eye for fashion, and we've been pioneers in that space on tap finishes. So we've got a really good range of tapware and all of these new sort of finishes which have been coming. We started with black about 10 years ago, and since then there's been linished finishes and gold and all sorts of things which have come to the market. So it's about 40% of our business is bathroomware, so it's a really significant part, and this audience normally doesn't get to see it, but so it's an important part of our business. The other two sides to our business is plumbing. So we've got the Cleffy brand, which is probably our premium brand in the plumbing sector. Also, they do a lot of heating components as well, and so we talk about those components as well. And historically, as I said, we've been a radiant heating company. And now we're really starting to transition into cooling and to ventilating and doing that all in a package. And that's what this Messana climate control ties all of these technologies together to allow us to create these new types of solutions. So with this broad product portfolio, it allows us to start creating solutions to the market. And so we're really trying to transition ourselves. We've always been reasonably solution focused, but more and more we're moving in that direction. So rather than just being a product supplier or a box dropper, we're really starting to work on providing solutions to the market. Part of it is seeing the opportunity where you can create value, but that's really what motivates us and drives the things that we do. Okay, so the brand overview. One of the banner brands when we're talking about the plumbing and heating, of course, one of the key brands for us is Wellington. They're a German boiler manufacturer. We like to think that in this segment, there's really three premium boiler manufacturers in the world. There's Wellington, Weissman, and Bosch. And Wellington sits squarely in that sort of territory of one of the premium boiler manufacturers in the world. We've been doing Wellington now for 10 years, and we've really pushed in the market the temperature compensation technology. So temperature compensation is where you vary the water temperature depending on what the needs in the building is. And so before temperature compensation really became popular, then most systems were running with a fixed water temperature and then using thermostat control. And over the last sort of 10 years, we've really been pushing this kind of new technology of varying the water temperature, which increases the efficiency of the appliance and increases comfort. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, Wellington really started to make a big push into renewables. In the European market, they're very focused, especially now, even more so than ever, with the gas coming from Russia, with those taps being turned off. There's very strong drivers in that market to adopt heat pump technology. And Wellington's been working with heat pumps probably for the last 7 years, I think. And when you're talking about temperature compensation technology, it's even more important for heat pumps than it is for condensing gas boilers. So for instance, if you set up your system and you run it with a 30-degree water temperature, it's about 25% more efficient than using exactly the same appliance but running it at 45-degree water temperature. So it makes a massive difference to the running costs and the efficiency of the system. So also in that range, we're the Cleffy agent. So they do all sorts of control valves, underfloor manifolds, pump stations, mixing stations, all of the critical components to complete the system. We pull from the Cleffy portfolio. And we've added some new products to the range for the Messana climate control solution, specifically pumps and mixing stations, which really clean up the installation. So you'll see those out in the market soon. We've been bringing those to the market, and it really creates a very tidy and compact plant room, where otherwise it can be a bit of a jungle gym. We've also got partnership with Heat Miser. They provide our more traditional controls. Brugman radiators. So we've been in the market with Brugman for about 6 years. They're a steel panel radiator. We see the radiator market itself is starting to be replaced by lower water technologies. So if when you're trying to do a heating system, the water temperature you use to heat the building is directly tied to how much surface area you've got. So if you've got an underfloor heating system or an active ceiling system, typically you can heat a house with 35-degree water temperature. And if you've got a radiator system, which the radiator's got much smaller surface area than, say, a floor or a ceiling, you have to use a higher temperature. And because these new technology appliances like heat pumps are so much more efficient with low temperature water, what we tend to find is that these systems are moving to more that sort of big surface area technology. Messana, we'll have a deep dive on Messana once we get started there. ProTank is our hot water cylinder brand. Ritter is a new range of air-to-water heat pumps which we have. And then we have systems which we do. The Net Zero, Heat Pro, Smart Cart and Comfort Zone. I'll talk about those in a second. Okay, so in the Valent range, I'll just go over two technologies which we've got. We have the condensing gas boiler range. In the domestic series, they go 18, 24, 37 kilowatt. They're very good for domestic applications. We can also run them in cascades if they're bigger, so it's not uncommon in bigger houses to have a pair of boilers running in a cascade. One of the other technologies which we've recently released is VED. So VED is a three-phase instantaneous hot water production unit. So it's very similar to a Rinnai Infinity in concept, but it uses electricity. So in some buildings, they're starting to use this commercially now in apartment building. It's a really nice appliance. It's quite small, sort of about yay big. So about 100 mils thick, 300 by 400. And it can produce enough water to do a bathroom, a kitchen, and an ensuite instantaneously using electricity. So where people are trying to move away from gas-based technology and go to electric renewable, then it creates a solution. The cost of a unit like this relative to a hot water cylinder, it's about half the price. So, and obviously much, much smaller footprint, cheaper to install. So they're using these quite a bit in Australia. The adoption in New Zealand's been slower. One of the key drivers for that is you have to have three-phase power, and getting three-phase to every apartment is not typical, so it requires it to go into the building at design time. Also in the hot water portfolio, we have the ProTank range. So this is something that we designed about 5 years ago. The advantage with the ProTank is the installation time. So it's a stainless steel hot water cylinder. The things which are unique to it is it has the cold water expansion is direct mounted at the bottom. Here, you have your TPR on your side here, and then you have a monoblock valve kit from Kalefi on the top. So there's a stainless steel dip tube. So you deliver the cold water in the blue handled valve. It gets delivered down to the bottom of the tank, and then the hot water comes out of the top, and you have your Kalefi tempering valve mounted here. So in terms of making your installation as tidy as possible, you basically have cold pipe entering, hot pipe leaving. There's two pipes that come down. These valves are slightly offset and then drop straight into a ton dish. So using this method of installing a hot water cylinder typically is about an hour time saving. And in terms of how clean the installation look, it is the tidiest cylinder installation you can do. We also have the same range available in coiled tanks. So there's 185, and very soon there'll be a 250 and a 300 litre tank. High capacity coils, so they're compatible with low temperature heat sources like heat pumps. But all the same advantages you get in ProTank, you also get in ProTank Indirect. We developed an installation kit for it. So it comes with these special custom blocks, which are scalloped like the size of the shape of the tank. You attach the block back on the wall, and then on the side there's a couple of riv nuts where you can put your restraint straps. So you've got 2 or 3 blocks depending on the capacity of the cylinder. Put those blocks against the wall, push your tank back in, and then you can restrain it. So it's a very, very tidy way of maintaining your tank for seismic control. So it used to be, well, the other alternatives, you have 2 bits of wood on the wall, which you have to chamfer, and then you have to strap it back, which is kind of really untidy and time consuming. This is very, very fast and very, very neat. We also have a custom cylinder tray. So in the 135 and the 185 litre tanks, it's a very narrow platform. It's 475 mil. So the OD of the cylinder tray is only 500 mil. So it fits inside a very narrow hot water cylinder cupboard. And it's designed so that as the 2 pipes come down from your TPR and your cold water expansion, it drops into an all-proof ton dish, and this has got a slotted hole which takes the ton dish, and you can slide it backwards and forwards to line it up exactly with your pipes. So you can bring 2 pipes down with no deviation straight into the top of the ton dish and then waste away. So when you combine this installation kit along with the valve kit that goes on top with your cold in, dip tube, hot out, tempered hot out, and we also have an insulation clam which then goes around this for energy saving, insulation clam around the TPR. It's a very, very tidy and fast install. Okay, so still on the hot water theme, another product which we've brought to market is a small air-to-water heat pump. So it's using it's high temperature, so it is 75-degree output, and it's direct. So you can have it with a hot water cylinder without a coil and connect it onto any electric hot water cylinder. It's got a built-in circulating pump and a cylinder probe. So you put the probe into the tank, it measures when the tank drops below 60 degrees, automatically turns on, and draws cold water from the tank, pops back up, and then pops it back in. So it's a very easy and clean way to turn any electric hot water cylinder into a heat pump option. Price point's very competitive, and output is reasonably high. So from a standard 10 amp supply, the heat pump itself is 7.5 kilowatt output. So you can have a reasonably small hot water cylinder, a 135 or a 185, and do a 3 or 4 bedroom house, because it's very quick recovery. It's like having 2.5 electric elements in your standard cylinder. And this is one of the first products which we've brought in under our Ritter brand, which is a brand we've developed for our renewable technologies. And the other technology we have, so we have this air-to-water heat pump. So this is an indirect appliance, so this is for central heating, cooling applications. This is a traditional air-to-water heat pump using R32 refrigerant. So one of the things which is happening in the market is there's this drive to these new refrigerants. So probably 5 years ago, most of the appliances was R410A, and under the Paris Climate Accord, there was a new target which came in for how clean the refrigerants are, and they give the refrigerant a score called a GWP, a global warming potential. And what it means is if you let off a kilo of gas, how much damage does it do to the environment? And they set a new target in the market that you had to be below 500 units. So to give you context, the R410A, which was the heat pumps at the time, they have a score of about 2,500 units. So they're a long way from complying. Gold standard in the market is CO2, which has got a GWP of 1. So that gives you kind of the lay of the land. 1 being the gold standard of CO2 heat pumps, up to 2,500 units for an R410A. This unit is an R32, which is seen as a transition gas. So most of the Japanese heat pump manufacturers are using R32 at the moment. This doesn't quite comply. So an R32 appliance is about 600 units, so it's kind of seen as a transition gas. And I think it's 2028 you have to be below 500 units. So one of the key drivers in the market is there's a lot of these R32 appliances around which are going to have to be grandfathered out. And the way which they do it is they start cranking up the price of refrigerant. So keeping these older appliances going becomes more and more expensive. So the newer technology, so these heat pumps, they're very good for low temperature applications. So you get very good COP, very good performance, up to about 60 degrees is the maximum you can run them. So it's questionable when you do it for hot water production, you have to have some electric backup to sterilize your tank. So it's always this belt and braces approach where you've got your heat pump, but then you've got to have electric backup to sterilize your tank to meet code. So the new technology heat pumps is this. So R290 is one of these new generation refrigerants. It has a GWP of 3, so it's basically inert. One of the key advantages for this technology is its high temperature. So from an R290 appliance, you can have a peak flow temperature of 75 degrees. What that does is it opens up opportunity now to do hot water production with it with no electric backup and retrofit for existing radiator systems. So one of the problems with an R32 appliance is if you try and retrofit into a radiator system which has been sized for boilers, you won't be able to produce the same water temperature and then your radiators will all underperform. So to make the system work properly, you'll have to upsize all your radiators, and that's obviously messy, expensive, a pain in the neck. The advantage with an R290 appliance is you can run it at 65 degrees. So you can retrofit it onto an existing system without structurally having to change anything, upsize your rads. So they're a little bit more expensive, not ridiculously so, only about 15% more expensive than an equivalent R32 unit, but much more flexible when it comes to replacements, when it comes to hot water production. The limitation, one of the key issues with R290 is it's flammable. The gas itself is actually propane. So on one side, that's a good advantage because there is a huge amount of LPG available, and the ability to crank up the price of LPG is very limited because it's used in so many industries. The disadvantage is it's flammable. So one of the key drivers for the Messana technology is going to be for VRF units, which are classic air conditioning systems. They're all going to have to be moving to these new technology gases, and almost all of them are flammable. They don't want to be bringing this gas inside the building envelope. So the advantage of this appliance, which is what we call a monoblock, the gas doesn't leave the appliance. It has a plate heat exchanger inside, and we run water to and from it. So it's sitting outside the building envelope, you're producing hot or cold water, and then you're only bringing water inside the building. So what we can see moving forward over the next sort of 5 years is all of these VRF systems are going to be grandfathered out, and they're going to be replaced with some type of water technology. That's the most likely scenario. So instead of having classic air-conditioned systems, it's all going to be moving to fan coils. So we're trying to set ourselves up to be players in this market, and this is this new technology, new opportunity. Because you as a group are specialists in water, that now allows you to be moving into these new realms of which used to be just refrigeration engineers doing. Now there's going to be opportunity for heating engineers to do water-based heating and cooling technology systems. Okay, so to talk about solutions, the R290 appliance, because it's high temperature, goes up to 75 degrees. One of the things that allows us to do is to do hot water production with it. When we talk about our systems approach, this is very much in Waterware's wheelhouse. Because we have the Cleffi valves where we can distribute the water through the building with a ring main system. So this particular system is commercial hot water, typically for multi-tenant. So if you've got an apartment building, for instance, we can design a system which has a high temperature heat pump, has storage vessels, then we can distribute it through the building, and we have a wireless water metering system where we can charge for the hot water. So from one supplier, you can do a complete package which allows all of the hot water production in a renewable way. And the net zero system is an engineering and sizing tool which allows you to size a solar PV array which offsets the power used by the heat pump. So it creates a model, and what the model tells you is how much hot water you need to store, what rate you need to recover it, that drives the size of the heat pump, and then the total amount of energy which the heat pump needs per year to produce the calculated hot water. And so from there you can drive how many solar panels I need and what size inverter I need. So you have this complete solution where the total amount of energy which the solar system produces is consumed by the heat pump and turned into hot water. The advantage of this is it happens in a very capital efficient way. So typically for a solar PV system, you'll be looking at 7-year payback. Typically with a net zero system, it changes as the system scales in size, but at about 50 apartments, we're at cost parity. And by cost parity, what I mean is if you are going to produce the same amount of hot water with electric hot water cylinders, doing a net zero system, including the solar PV array, is about the same capital cost. But your running cost per year is close to zero, and your carbon footprint is close to zero. So for the right client, if they're either institutional, if they're a government agency, they're all very hot on this low carbon. And so it's a way which we can start to solve these sort of problems. So we do a domestic version of the system too. Okay, so in terms of services which we offer to the market, we have what we call Heat Pro Rapid. What Heat Pro Rapid allows you to do is it allows you to QS a system very quickly. So we can turn around a Heat Pro Rapid price estimate within 24 hours, and we can do it at your buy price. We can do it at a retail estimate, including installation. You can drive what hourly rate you want to use for the installation. Gives you estimated running cost and estimated service cost. So what it allows you to do is to sense check and work with the client to right at the front drive the right specification to the right price point to create value without expending a lot of engineering time. So especially as we start to move into these Messana climate control systems, the performance you get from the system is very attractive, but it's at a certain price point. And so we need to have a good way of sense checking, does the client want to spend this much money on a system? Everyone wants the performance, but can they afford it? And so what the HeatPro Rapid system does is very quickly you can create an estimate to sense check with the client. Is this the sort of price point which you're thinking? And then if it's not, you can tune the options in the system to create the value proposition which works for them. So we've got this QSing service, and we've also got this thing called Smart Cart. So over the last 2 years, the two pain points for people in the market was every time I went to order something, it was 20% more expensive, and then it wasn't available. So we came up with this concept called Smart Cart. And what Smart Cart does is if you have a trade login with us, any quotation which we do for you for a full system automatically gets uploaded onto the website. You can, if that job gets accepted, you can accept that job through your website and you can schedule delivery. So you can say, I need these components for the pre-slab, I need these components for the pre-line, and I need these components for the final fix. And you can schedule the delivery of those components for any time up to 2 years. So the quote that we do for you is valid for 6 months. If you accept it within that 6-month period, you can delay the delivery of that job for up to 2 years. So that does two things. It guarantees your price, so you're not going to have any price rises once that job's been accepted. That price is guaranteed, and it pretty much guarantees that we're going to have it in stock when you need it. So this is a free service which we offer, and it's designed to help give you price surety when you come to do your systems, that if the job gets accepted and goes ahead, you get to pre-order everything, we'll deliver it to site when it's scheduled.